Hello to everyone joining us. We're going to give it about a minute or so for everyone to get settled, and then we will get it on with a product demo this afternoon. All right, we're going to go ahead and start our product demo for today. You are with CMAA. Thank you for taking your time for this presentation. The title is Recruiting and Finding PMs is Hard. Making them effective quickly doesn't have to be. And today our hosts and our speakers are Doug Vincent. He's the co-founder and CEO at Mast. And also with him is Aaron Wigley. He's the senior project manager at Aero Projects. I ask that you put any questions that you might have in the chat or the Q&A, and we will answer those at the end of our time. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Doug and let you get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. And you can hear me loud and clear, I hope, and see my screen okay? All right, very cool. Nice to meet you all. Good to see lots of people flooding in. This is my second CMAA webinar. And this one we kind of came up with out of necessity because we had a lot of customers of ours at Mast around APAC, where I'm originally from, Middle East and the States, asking us like, hey, do you know any project managers? You know, we're looking for them. And it is really difficult at the moment. And so we tried to help them, make them more effective. And it's not always that easy. So certainly today's topic was out of necessity. And I'm joined by a customer of ours, Aaron Wigley, who I'll get to him to introduce himself a little bit later on. But just to kind of hit, straight into the elephant in the room, finding good people is really difficult at the moment. And when I say good people, I mean people specific to our industry, delivering infrastructure projects, delivering capital projects. And there's a few reasons for that. People are retiring, there is an attrition rate, and there's also this huge pipeline of infrastructure work happening here in the States. So I'm in Texas at the moment, and there is just construction all around me, all around the state. It's just totally insane. And the same thing's happening over in California and Florida. And I've got a nice chart here to show, the concentration of projects in those states, but not just in those, all around the country. But we're not just fighting for resources here. There is also this huge amount of competition with other economies, such as the Middle East. And a lot of our customers have lost people to those regions, attracted by, all of the giga projects that are happening, in those regions where they've got deep pockets of cash and they're able to entice people over. So it's not just, the PGA Tour, being affected by the LIV golf tour that they've created. We're also being affected, as project managers. And we don't want to be pillaging each other's staff, and we don't want them to be pillaging our staff. And so we need to find a way to get more effective, because really this is a global problem that we're facing. It's not just here in the States. There is a talent shortage, and the Project Management Institute estimates we're going to need nearly 90 million people working in project management by 2027, which is not that far away. And unfortunately, the trend is only getting worse. So if you look at jobs per 100 candidates, 2 years ago, it was 5 to 1. Today, it's about 10 to 1. And in the future, very near future, it's going to be 15 to 1. So that's, one person filling one role, and then there's 14 other people who need, that same person to come and work in their business, delivering, construction GDP for this country. And so if you are working in the industry like me, and you are, nowhere near retirement, this is a problem that we, can only solve together. And we need to start thinking about it now because it is going to affect us. It is probably already affecting us, and it's going to affect, our economy as well, because globally we're going through this crazy wave of urban development, building the equivalent of New York City every month, for the next 40 years. And these regions in Africa, the Middle East, like I already mentioned, and Southeast Asia are maturing and growing their project management practices, which is what's causing this, big, net loss of people to those places. So how do we feel about this? So our customers at MAST are asset owners and also consultants delivering capital projects and capital programs. And we asked them, how they felt about this, and canvassed, a whole range of personas to try to figure out what the emotional response was, to this problem. And from the asset owner's perspective, they feel like they can't find, good staff, and that their existing project managers, too inexperienced, because the good ones are being poached and getting the big cash elsewhere. And we really need, they feel that they need to free up, spare capacity and, rid their businesses of waste so that they can get more work done. And then on the consulting side, where Aaron is and why Aaron's joined us today is a lot of these project managers who are up and coming in the industry can't find a company where they can really flourish. And they don't want to work in an organization that is, archaic and disorganized, and that affects their decision-making. And they don't want to spend too much time doing manual work. This is an impact-driven, a demographic of people, and they want to be delivering the projects for the end user to benefit from. And so what do we do about this crazy problem? We can't clone each other, not yet, well, we can't clone each other just yet. And so we need to kind of encourage talent into our industry instead of, picking at each other, and we need to get more effective. And so we've come up with how we feel as a technology business, 5 ways to get more effective. Some of these are, boring, necessary things. Some of them are cool, exciting things, and I'm going to save the best till last. So step 1 is we need to get in sync with this new young generation who's going to make up, a third of our workforce in the next few years. Let's call them the tech savvy gen. And then we need to figure out how to turn a 6 out of 10. And I mean, 6 out of 10 is like just middle of the pack. They're not the superstar. They're not the worst. They're just a 6 out of 10. We need to turn a 6 out of 10 into an 8 or a 9 out of 10, make them more effective. And then if you do deploy new staff to a project that are existing and you hire new staff, you need to ramp them really quickly so they can be effective super fast. And then step 4, how do you then efficiently win work and scale this? And then lastly, if all those things fail, I'll show you how you can get some crazy AI to enable data-driven lessons learned to really distill that information into everyone's mind. So we're going to jump into all of these 5 things in a minute with demonstrations and instructions. But before I do that, I wanted to introduce Aaron, and I'll hand over to Aaron to introduce himself. He's an expert in our industry. He's a long-term customer and friend of mine, and I'm really excited to have him on the webinar today to provide that aspect or that opinion from the client side or the project management consulting firm's perspective. So if you want to introduce yourself, Aaron, that would be great.
Will do. Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, thank you to CMAA and to Doug over at MAST for having the opportunity to join you in today's discussion. So as Doug mentioned, we had the privilege of working together many years ago in the trenches, both as young project managers, both slaving away, custom tailoring spreadsheets, reports, briefs, all sorts of documents in order to perform our tasks as junior project managers. I've then since had the luxury of working for a project management consultancy business for 10 years, worked for a builder for 5 years, and now I'm back in the project management consultancy space and working as part of the leadership team with Arrow Projects. So my day-to-day job is as a senior project manager delivering projects, but I'm also responsible for growing and building our Sydney team and how that works with the rest of our national sort of view and vision within our business. We are an Indigenous business, so it is exciting. We're very boutique and we need to be very flexible. But what that means is that we're still building some of our systems up. And so MAST came around at a very perfect time for us to implement, as we were recruiting and hiring new staff to our team. And a big part of that was just trying to make sure that we had consistent output across all our different offices, with a lot of people who've been used to working remote and in pretty independent roles. So Doug, pretty excited to talk through some of those key points that you flagged there, because I feel I've got a bit of experience from being a general manager in a construction company, being a junior, having wished that there were products like this around back in our day, and also now someone who's more in that sort of leadership mentoring capacity, who's also looking to save time, but also trying to find good talent in a very competitive market.
Very cool. Thanks, Aaron. And we're going to dive into all of that as we go through the next few slides, addressing each step one by one. So let's start with step one, getting in sync with the tech savvy generation. And you can really classify these people as, millennials, born anywhere from 1980 to 1986. I'm a millennial. I was a bit tech savvy and I saw a better way to do things, which is why I started MAST in 2019 out of Australia. However, now I live here in the US. And then we have Gen Z, which is anyone from 1997 to 2012. And so this is the workforce that is, going to make up as much as 30% or about a third by 2030. And if you don't know what they look like, they're really easy to see. You can see them out in the wild, holding their phone, not really paying attention to what's going on around them. And so they are around and they are ready to work. And the demands of these young workers can't be ignored, or, you can ignore them at your own peril, but they are true digital natives and they have high expectations for technology because they've been born into it, unlike millennials who it was introduced to. And so this means that they're more willing to push back because that's all they know. And they even select jobs based on the tools that they're going to have at their disposal. And I'm just going to give a quick example before I cut over to Aaron to give you an example of like the mindset of these young workers. This is kind of the reality on the left-hand side when you enter maybe an asset owner or a project management consulting business, when they really have an expectation of having really nice, awesome to use software like they have in their personal life, because they're using all these great apps personally. And then they go to work to do really important things and they've got, really nothing. And so this is like basically the same as saying, here's a phone, that you could use. They're going to be like, great, what am I going to do with that? When they're expecting some crazy, metaverse VR headset. So it's a night and day difference for what they are expecting and what is often the reality of a business that they're looking to enter. And Aaron, I'd be keen to hear your 2 cents and how you see this playing out for you in your business.
Yeah, definitely, Doug. Look, I think there's a couple of key things there. I suppose what we're experiencing is that, yes, the Gen Z group operate at a different pace. So that sort of starts, they're not taking traditional education paths that you or I might have taken, going to university for 3 or 5 years for a economics or an engineering background, which is a bit more of a traditional background for a project management professional, particularly here in Australia. They're looking at much more specific short-term courses, whether that be online or through university or tertiary education institutes, but things they can do in 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, focusing on just constantly upskilling and being more competitive for themselves. So I think, MAST sort of really feeds into that as well, because everything's just about a little bit quicker and a bit more efficient. There's also a bigger focus with that generation, I think, on their career and professional development. Gone are the days of people staying somewhere for 10, 15 years. They're sort of mapping out those 5-10 year pathways. there's a lot more career change now as well. So it's, instead of sort of maybe one or two career changes in a person's life, we're seeing a lot more of that. So you're actually getting a lot more diverse people. And again, they're all things that I think we need to consider at this sort of phase.
That's right. And so I guess the message here is, if you can posture your business to be responding to the needs, of this young generation, this young tech savvy generation, you're going to have a much better chance of recruiting those people. And you may even get them at a bit of a discount to what would otherwise be the pay, because they're willing to take a role. We know they're willing to take a role if they are given good learning opportunities and good software and good technology to use in that role. All right, let's move on to step 2. And this is where we start to get a little bit more into some of the software elements. And I really like this one because we all know we'd all love a top performer. The 9 out of 10, like you, Aaron. You were a 9.5 out of 10. I was a 10 out of 10. No, I'm just kidding. But you need the 6 out of 10s. Good mentoring. That's right. You did mentor me. But you need the 6 out of 10s. You need the steady earners, in the business, because not everyone is, right up at that top end of the scale for a whole range of reasons. But, what if we could make a 6 out of 10, a 9 out of 10? That would be pretty sweet, right? We can't, plug them in and download information onto their brain because Neuralink, Elon Musk's business, is not yet, commercialized and available for us to do that. So it means that you do need to train them and mentor them. But it's hard because we're all time poor in these businesses. And how do you, sit down and give them the education they need to do better at their job? And what they're going to do is they're going to start to circumvent the rules. And we don't really want these 6 out of 10s working on our high value clients, because they may underperform and they may affect the reputation of your business. So we need some way to get visibility into what they're doing to prevent, a 6 out of 10 creating an issue before they occur, or giving you the visibility to see what that 6 out of 10 is doing, so you can educate them in a just-in-time fashion and upskill them. And then lastly, like, all of this stuff is getting pretty complicated these days. Like, the demands of asset owners and our clients is getting pretty crazy. And we don't want them falling back to a 5 or less, because then they might get fired and then we need to replace them with someone else. So there is a way of using, the collective knowledge of the staff and how other people are doing things in the business to upskill everyone. And I might ask Aaron, just for this next slide, how in your business you get the visibility that you need into the staff, or perhaps, in the old world, how you got visibility into the staff and how you controlled, the quality and the consistency of information that your team was distributing.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think I'll probably first start, Doug, to the comment about a 6 out of a 10. I think that's reasonable to expect, right? As a newcomer into a business, getting familiar with how you deliver projects, getting familiar with the new client they're working with, and getting familiar with that particular individual business. So I think on any project that we start, we probably all feel a bit like a 6 out of 10 until we're into the minutiae and we're underway running it. So I think that's sort of just a positive way to kind of look at that. And it's how do we then turn newcomers or even ourselves on a new project with a new client from a 6 to a 10, so that we're all performing at our best. And ultimately, Mast does do that. So in this context, I'll sort of speak a little bit more in terms of from a senior management or a leader sort of perspective. And I think the key is here, it's about just getting access to key information on the project. So it's referring to that dashboard, being able to have quick visibility of information that the team are inserting into the project and seeing it filter up, so that you can identify any problems that might be coming up, or just enabling senior management to be more strategic with the delivery of that project. So that enables us to sort of dive in and out a little bit easier without having to drag the PMs away, sit down with lots of internal meetings and work out the status of where everything is. So there's a little bit of time efficiency there. It's also just having more time for mentoring. The time that individuals save with some of those day-to-day admins means they get more time with senior management. They get more time with their mentors. So they're actually building up their own professional development in that instance, which is building them from a 6 to a 10. So I think all of those little things really sort of help just help them focus on their own growth, because the day-to-day activities of project management are simplified by implementing tools like Mars.
And that real-time piece is perfect for that, because previously, I would have sent you a spreadsheet back when we worked together 10 years ago, and then I would keep working on it in my swim lane. And then someone would work on it, and then eventually it makes it up to the boss. And by the time he's got it or she has got it, you've manipulated your spreadsheet and updated it, for weeks and weeks. And so there's I've
manipulated it.
That's right. You've manipulated, everyone's manipulated it. And so it's very difficult for that key decision maker at the top to make a decision or help if the information they're getting is old. And so what we sought to provide in developing the system, MAST, was to get that upstream data to those people real time. So they don't have to wait, like you were saying, Aaron, until the end of the month or wait for a status report to be prepared. It's just there real time and any time. And as we go down to a program or a practice lead level, depending on your role, you're able to see the issues before they occur, because you have this unparalleled visibility into what's going on. And that has a value there too, being able to identify in a programmatic sense interdependencies between the projects, even for your client. And then down the bottom, like we were talking about earlier, standardizing around the project managers who are actually the ICs, the individual contributors, so that they're not in manual world, and they have more time to focus on their learning. And I'm going to show a bit of a demo. Was there any flavor you wanted to add to that, Aaron, before I jump into the demo?
No, I think that's pretty good for the moment. I think the demo will kind of help start to put things in perspective now with what we're talking about.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to cut over to the system, and I'm going to show a program level drill down just to tick off that visibility box. I've got 6 projects here on my demo account, and then we roll these projects up into programs so that you can manage, program in a true programmatic sense. And then there is a portfolio feature as well, but I'm going to jump into programs here. And I've got a program that has 5 projects in it. Program A, very creatively named. And these dashboards and reports populate in real time from all of the project level information. So you can see everything in one spot in a way that allows you to identify the key risks or issues anytime with rich, visualized information in a way that is pretty standard practice these days, in our industry. And if I need to drill down into any of this information, I can click into any of these projects either via the list or through, the map. And just to give you a bit of an example of how granular this information is, if I have a specific financial request or interest, I can go into a program cost module. So now we're going from, executive dashboard into a program management controls tool. And I can see 5 projects here in what is a pretty typical cost worksheet style structure. But instead of having to go to this project to see what's going on, or double click on a cell in a spreadsheet where you get the big crazy formula, B1 plus half of tab 6, we wanted anyone to be able to come in here and just click and drill down and unravel the information to see exactly what's going on, so that nothing is hidden behind complicated formulas or spreadsheets. And I can drill right down to the milestone within a contract and right down to a forecast or a change order. So it's at your fingertips. You don't have to go into someone's folder to drill into a spreadsheet that you're not going to understand anyway. And then with respect to democratization of the information, I can go into any of these projects and you can make them read-only, or you can make them permissionable. So it's all centralized in one spot, and you can give staff access to all of those so they can see how other people are doing it if they want to. And then lastly, just to touch on some of that, using a template to standardize the work, I'm going to go into this project A and I'm going to shortcut to the cost module. So I'm going to circumvent the dashboard, go straight into the cost module. and I'm going to go to payments, because there's a good example here of a high volume repetitive task certifying or generating certificates for paying people. And I can generate a letter here, payment certificate, and this can be done in any format for your business or for an asset owner. And so imagine if we had the level of control across all of the staff on all the projects, that they were generating the same consistent high quality outputs for all of the work they're doing. They don't have to think about putting together a Word document or how it should look. They just know that by using the system, they're doing the right thing, and they save time doing it. Cool. So I'll wrap up step 2 there, and we'll now move on to step 3. But that was just a quick example of some of that real-time visibility on the dashboards, the templatization of the letters, and then how you can just see everything because it's all in one spot. And we'll move on to ramping your new staff faster and more effective. And if you do manage to find a unicorn 9 out of 10 staff member, grab a hold of them and pull them into your business. But even if you just have a staff member that's going on to another project, we still want them to ramp up fast and effective on that project. And normally, from a reporting, governance, and controls perspective, the ramp will involve setting up a lot of stuff. Go to the other folder, the old folder, copy it across to a new folder, update and manipulate all the old stuff to make it suit the new project. And they'll take ages doing all this information. And so we need to firstly remove and stop enabling, that inefficiency. So, don't allow staff to do this. Get them a tool, and it's all about a fit for purpose tool. So MAST is one tool you can use for some things, and then there's other tools that are great for other things. But just generally find them a tool that is fit for purpose. And then if we can train them for you, or if that software can train them for you, like we do at MAST, then you tick the mentoring and the training box as well. So you don't have to spend your time doing that. And then second, once you've done that, you kind of flip the 80-20 rule. Instead of them spending 80% of their time doing admin and 20% on the creative element, let's give them 80% of their time to do the creative part, which promotes their work looking good externally to their colleagues and to the client, so that they can look good and then eventually win more work for your business. And then lastly, through standardization, if people do move around the business, you want those people to be able to jump in and pick it up really quickly. And we've all gone in and inherited a project and then gone into the folder to find all this crazy stuff. And then you have to unpick it and rebuild it and figure out, what the hell that person was doing or what's going on to get yourself up to speed. So when you standardize across the business, anyone can go into anything and understand exactly what's going on. And Aaron, I'd be keen to hear your perspective on, that time element of doing and preparing dashboards for clients and, the back end effort to do that. And because they're so regular, you have to do it like sometimes every week, every fortnight, every month, the pressure that builds for the staff.
Yeah, definitely, Doug. Look, there's a couple of good pieces there to pick on. We might work in reverse. So we've kind of been really fortunate to be able to use the dashboard on MAST in our day-to-day meetings with our clients, and sort of in our more formal monthly steering committee or leadership meetings on key projects. So instead of back in the day producing paper-based big reports, and doing the page turn for a couple of hours with everyone there who only sort of looks at these things maybe once a month or once a quarter, we're able to make it a little less formal, a little less daunting for everyone that's turning up, and basically just pull up the dashboard on the screen, on the presentation, and we can just talk to everything there. So obviously it's got time, cost, and risk. Risk effectively is covering a lot of our quality as well. So all the key things there that any decision makers focused on, it's all there. And to your point, you can talk about budget. If someone wants to, focus on a tiny bit of detail, you're not sort of flicking through a 40-page cost estimate. You just do a few clicks and you're in on the detail that they want to focus on. And again, same goes with risks and with program. So I think from that perspective, it's been a little bit more dynamic. It's taken the mundane out of those sessions for our clients and for us and for the team preparing all those reports, because it's live. So you minimize that anxiety that comes around every 3 weeks of producing the next big report to give to the client and making sure that all the grammar's correct, all the spelling's correct, that all the numbers are correct, because you're transferring from an Excel into a Word doc. You pretty much just have it all there. And if you want to produce something, you can just do a little, I think you've got the little print feature there where you can just print out that dashboard. That high level is what, the clients can have as their agenda. We're just going to go through everything on here today. And they can go, what's this red bit? Under risk, and we can drill into it. So I think that's been really helpful for us. And that then leads into, ramping up our staff and getting them fast and effective as project managers. We don't want to bog them down in the admin tasks. So, that's the same, whether it be setting up a project from scratch or whether it's coming into a new project and getting onboarded, handover from someone else. The information and everything that they're looking at is consistent in MAST on every project. So there's familiarity there, and that sort of then you can leave it up to the PMs to kind of tailor their dashboard for how they need the information to to provide that to their individual clients. So I think they're kind of the key things to that point. And probably one other good observation I've had over the last little while, Doug, is that I've had quite a few little teaching sessions on Microsoft Project and Microsoft Excel, and teaching people how to navigate and do things there that they may not be familiar with. And MAST has actually simplified that process for a lot of people. It's not as daunting to get in there and work out how to use Microsoft Project or how to link formulas and things like that in Excel. So I think all of that is then just giving them more time, empowering them to focus on being proactive versus reactive, which is what we're all about in our business.
Right. Yeah, it's faster, lighter, and it's out of the box fit for the job that they're doing. And I'll do a little bit of a demo of that now, by the way, guys. So I just want to touch on really quickly the Spreadsheet Killer cost module, and then I'll show you how it's fit for purpose. And then I'll show you those dashboards you saw moving around on that interactive graphic, how we touch that creative element. So I'm just going to go back, share my screen, and let's go back, click the logo, and we'll go back to where we saw all those projects centralized in one spot. And this time I'm going to go into a project. So I'll go into project A. Previously, we went up to programs and then went into a program level report, but we're now staying at that project level. And you can see an example here of our out-of-the-box dashboards. A lot of this will be familiar to everyone on this call. And then when you get to that stage of creativity, you want to build your own because you think a better way to communicate the messaging of the project or the status of the project. And you can create as many dashboards as you like along the top here. And the beauty of this is you can move anything around, change the size of anything that you like. And if you want to add something, a component to the dashboard, you can select it from our tile library. And I've got a basic list of tiles on here. And these tiles go for each module. We have integration tiles and an intelligence tile that I'm going to show you later on. And if you need to print it, you can just go to print preview, hit save, and you can PDF that out. And here's one that I generated before. It comes out nice PDF, exactly how you built it on the page. Send that off to your client. Looks awesome. And then if you need to prepare, from a standard template. So say the business creates a really nice way of producing these reports or these dashboards, you can create a template. And so I've got a playground tool one here, and I can apply this, and it populates an entirely different template. And so this is a level of standardization and control in dashboard governance that was previously not attainable. And then for the cost module, let's go in to cost. And this was my personal favorite module because this is where I would build all the crazy spreadsheets when I was a project manager. And I would put tabs along the bottom of my spreadsheets for all these things. This is variations is change orders, by the way. So this is an Australian account that I'm using at the moment. And you would build and interlink all of your different tabs to create an overall cost report And this is where I love that drill down visibility, because nothing is behind complicated formulas or spreadsheets. It's all here in one spot, and it's standardized and exactly fit for purpose for the program and project management consulting world. This is not a tool for GCs. We only focus on light, fast, easy to use software for asset owners and the consultants who serve them. So just a little bit of a teaser there, and we'll move on to step 4. And we're coming towards the end now, guys. So after step 4, we've got step 5, and then we're going to wrap it up and give you some time back. But what I love about the last 2 steps is this is where we get into some of the really exciting stuff. So with effectively winning work and scaling, if you are a firm that is now, on the leading edge of technology in our industry, which is a huge laggard, by the way, this is the most under-digitized industry in the world. And if you are on the leading edge of technology, you want to promote it and promote your new data-driven, technology-driven business. Because the combination of your services plus the technology is a unique product offering to a client in a project or program management sense. And that is compelling. And when you articulate that through RFPs and you articulate that message through your marketing and your branding, whether it be on the website or like this example I've got here from a South African customer of ours, that really resonates because everyone is thirsting for innovation in this space. And your people are going to be more savvy. Your experience is going to be demonstrating ROI through that complement of methodology and technology. And your methodology, show me how to do dashboards. Tell me how you're going to do costs or manage risk. That is better than business as usual, and you get higher criteria score, and I'll show you how. And then, of course, the ROI from using technology like MAST or others means you can go in a more competitive price scenario if you need to. And the beauty of all this is you don't have that ramp in the setup. So you can easily accept and onboard new projects into your platform and into your systems from day one, meaning that it's more compelling for a client to give you that work and easier for you to accept immediately into the business a new project to then have live reporting. So I like that example on the right. That's just some marketing collateral from a customer of ours that shows that perfect services of theirs and then the complementary technology. And then what do I mean by, the methodology? Winning RFPs is all about, trust with the client and also about how well you can sell yourself through text, written text in a document back to them. The simplest example is using risk, for example. So others may propose using a spreadsheet, which is business as usual and quite frankly, pretty boring. No one likes looking at those things. What winning looks like is you are proposing, a significant increase in capability, and the project that you're going to be managing deserves that attention. And this is recognition of the lost opportunities that exist in the old method. It's very difficult to identify opportunities and prevent risks and issues when you're using an unactivated spreadsheet. And when you do that and you demonstrate that value, in which we have the content, by the way, to share with the attendees on this call, you gain a higher criteria score versus other people. And when methodology might be 60 or 70% of the makeup of a response, that is enough to give a competitive edge to then win that tender. And Aaron, I know we've done a few of these now together. How have you gone with your content that we've provided you in kind of rubbing off that technology component onto the business to then see success in winning work or demonstrating value to the client, that combo of service plus tech is truly a powerful product in your sense?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think, obviously the reason we came to you, Doug, was it nearly 18 months ago now, is because I suppose there's a good alignment with how we work. We're trying to focus on being proactive, efficient project managers. I know we all are, but to be able to substantiate that, how do you do that? Well, we're using the right tools. So, MAST is the right tool that enables our team to be more efficient and to focus on what is important. So I was kind of just thinking, you know, when you're talking about, you know, ramping up and winning work, and a really good way to kind of summarize, you know, the value this has for a client, just looking at that particular image there on the screen at the moment, is, you know, we've gone are the days of having a 1 or 2 page executive summary to, you know, give the decision maker a brief on a 40, 50 page report. You know, we've gone past, you know, traffic light reporting, you know, green, amber, red, to highlight where risks might be on particular issues in the day to day. We're more in this dashboard world, trying to simplify things because decision makers don't have the time. You know, you've already pointed out that we're at a shortage, which means that, you know, senior management are getting more and more hands on in the weeds of projects and in the day-to-day activities, because it's taking time to find all those good people. So when it comes to proving to a client how we simplify things, that graphic there on the screen shows you right there and then what you're sort of talking about. So that, you know, from an advertising perspective for us and in our bids, that goes a long way to supporting what we're saying.
That's right. And I'm going to whip that up right now, actually. So I can't share the, you know, huge amount of content that we have for firms looking for input into, you know, their responses, but I can show you how it actually does that. So we're going to take a look at, in the example of risk, the increasing capability that the system provides. And I'm going to go from the cost module, I'm going to go into the risk module. And the genesis of this system, the risk in particular, was our customers started asking, hey, can you get rid of this other spreadsheet that we're using, this wretched risk register? So we said, yeah, sure. And you can think of the bottom half of this as that old risk register. Got the risks, it's got your pre and post mitigations. And the beauty of this is it visualizes the risks in a really easy to use way. And we do that because the step 6 in the ISO risk management framework, which is the, you know, the global standard, is step 6, communicate the risk. And what better way to do that through a visualization where you can see and toggle between various states of risk. So I can go from the pre-mitigation to the post-mitigation. I can see the risks by category. I can go back to a funded and unfunded risk view, or I can just have no view and play with the risks. And then this provides, you know, context to where to focus the attention. And if I want to say turn off the time impacts on the left-hand side, I can toggle that off, and then we can drill in. So we're going to look at a risk, causes of that risk, mitigations and consequences of that risk, and I can make direct updates and re-rate accordingly in one simple system. And rest assured, you can get out an Excel risk register if you need to. So just to close the loop on how this actually looks, just downloaded a risk register, and I think that will look pretty familiar to most of you as the old method of doing it. And so that's just a quick example of how this is like a significant, you know, an order of magnitude higher capability versus what others may be promoting in their responses as an effective method of doing it versus what MAST provides. All right, thanks for that, Wiggly. That was a really good description. And we're going to crack into the last stuff. And you haven't seen this, by the way, Aaron, so I'm going to get a genuine response from you here on the call. And this product is not yet on your system either, because this is a true prototype. But let's get to it, because this is cool and topical. And I've always been a big advocate for how do we use all of your data. For example, Aaron, it's all trapped in people's heads or lost in spreadsheets and reports. And over time, you build up a repository of that, but it's really hard to access it. Like, how do you know what the best risk mitigation was on this project or past project? It's just trapped in someone's head. And most people will try a lessons learned risk register. I know, you know, they'll go, oh no, we'll create a register, a spreadsheet, and we'll put all the lessons in there, and then we'll go back and read them all. Really, no one actually does that at all. It just is another lost spreadsheet. And so how do we unlock all that value? Well, we standardize the data because you use MAST, and we have an AI ML engine that gives you the answers. And I'm going to show you how we do this. So how it works, and this is right on the thread of all the recent, ChatGPT stuff. There's a few products you can use. We used the ChatGPT version, and we, fed it with information from MAST: cost, risk, schedule, status information, user information as well, and in time series. So just like a loaf of bread, all of these slices of data over time. And then we used our own experience with our knowledge of delivering projects, and each persona, you might be a project manager, program manager, or head of capital projects, to give enhance the answer using prompts. But these are wired into the back, so we kind of give the AI the context of who is asking the question through the interface. And then we gave you a cool assistant to interact with, so that does the work for you. Now, we used a frog as our logo for this because frogs are perhaps the most intelligent of all the amphibians, because they have the largest brain to body ratio. But whether that makes it onto the final version or not, we're not sure, but it was cool and relevant for what we were doing. And this is what it looks like. It's a chat interface like ChatGPT, and you type in your question and it'll give you the answer. So this is just very basic, a bit of a teaser. What are my highest risks right now that need attention? It'll tell you. You don't even have to go and look at the risk register or look at the system. It'll just tell you exactly what the answer is. And then what actions should I take? And it'll tell you what you need to do next to course correct or address, risks on the project. And this is just in the context of risk. So imagine if we stepped back out to a 30,000 foot view, and you were a portfolio manager, a program manager, or a project manager, the things that you could ask and that we have asked this system. For example, what projects are going off track? Which projects have got low confidence in the completion? We have all the data, we have the context, and we have the information to be able to tell that person, the portfolio manager, what they need to do right now. Or how does their business compare to others delivering similar projects? We can give you a benchmark analysis of how you're going and what you need to do to improve across all of your projects. And then at a program level, they want to know what's changed and they want to know it right now. So looking at a dashboard is great, but maybe they've got a specific question that they want to ask the data and they need to know it right now. For example, if you're managing a large program, what is the number one issue right now on my program? Just tell me in plain text. It'll tell you. Or instead of going through things and seeing what's changed, you can just ask it what has changed. And it might say, oh, this change order was approved since last time you logged in. Or this risk was derated from high to low since last time you logged in. It's truly a mind-boggling the things that you can ask it. And then from a learning perspective, at a project level, it's command-driven and it can build things. So generate me a risk register for a school project, and it will build it for you because it has access to our database of risks. Or if you have an existing risk register or cost module or anything or dashboard, how can I make it better? And it will tell you how to make it better. So from the perspective of unlocking all of this highly valuable trapped information, we are finally now at the precipice of unlocking that through these AI ML tools. And at MAST, we started with a purpose around creating a bit of an impact. And we started at the bottom, and we've now got all of this rich, normalized and standardized information that we're capturing in a really easy to use system to enable this kind of game-changing level of technology at the top. So I'd just be keen to get your reaction on that really quickly, Aaron, before I skip across to wrap up.
Looks like early retirement for me. No, look, I think there's, you read a lot that there's a lot of hesitation around AI, but AI is a tool, no different to a car or a calculator that enhances the work that we're doing. And I think the point that you made before is that all the data that is captured in MAST is all standardized. So, these essentially you can use AI with 20, 30 preset questions And the funny thing is, most of those questions are the questions that a junior is going to ask. Someone at a 6 out of 10, how do I interpret this risk? You know, they're the questions that they would probably be going to their mentor with, but until we can actually get that status of balance between the number of people out there required for all these jobs forecast by 2027, you know, we do need access to people that can answer those questions for us. And if a tool can answer 80% of those questions based on the data that's already in there, that's great. That's saving everyone time and money. That means that the PM doesn't have to wait until their project director or their boss is available at 3 p.m. today or the next day or the end of the week. And again, it's all about being, as you said at the start, you know, fast and agile, which is where we save money on our projects for, you know, for our costs. It's where we can be more competitive when we're tendering for new work with new clients. So, I mean, I think it's a great tool because they're all the standard questions that either a manager is asking of their PM or a PM's asking their manager to help them, you know, work on the next step. So I'm pretty excited by it.
That's right. Well, I'll make sure I'll get it switched on for you and you can have a play.
Yeah.
Cool. So just to wrap it up, you know, what stops organizations making these moves? Well, you know, often there's a bit of a stigma that, you know, using or implementing a system is really time consuming. And there is a bit of fear that this is going to be disruptive to my role and my life. And then often as well, people think that, oh, I've got to train all these people on that. Well, you know, you were probably not trained on how to use Uber or Uber Eats or some of these other apps, and you probably downloaded them and started using them really quickly. That's the type of experience that we're trying to bring at MAST. And so it doesn't have to be that complicated. Implementing, training, using the software, and then winning content, which are kind of the 4 key pillars of our business and how we serve our customers at MAST. And so if you've got any flavor to add to this, Wiggly, I'd be keen to hear it from your perspective, having kind of gone through these 4 areas.
Yeah, definitely. So look, I think unfortunately I'm fast approaching the precipice of my generation where I'm going to need help programming, you know, my Apple TV and stuff like that in the next 5 years' time. So, you know, a lot of businesses have more senior leadership teams. So there's that fear of implementing new software if there's a learning curve for them, you know, that might take time for them away from what they're doing. But the reality is it's a relatively quick and easy tool to implement within a business, you know, at that sort of more senior end where you might be concerned about it. And the benefit is far outweighed when you see the younger staff in the office jumping straight into it and doing their own little, you know, Google through all your help tools and things like that and figuring things out themselves, like being just a little bit more kind of, you know, tech savvy and knowing how to find the information, you know, on the MAST site, that sort of thing. So those sorts of fears are kind of alleviated a little bit. You know, we've been able to get all of our current projects up and running really quickly. You know, I think it took us maybe a week, and they're all varying sizes and complexity. You know, we have we've kind of got our MAST account manager who checks in with us. We don't really have to chase up with Jackson. Jackson's really good. He's got a PM background as well. So when we have questions, we don't feel like they're dumb questions because he asks us. So I think a lot of those things have been really helpful for us at sort of implementing it and getting on board quite quickly, and then just, you know, incorporating that into our day-to-day.
Awesome. Thanks, Wiggly. And this is just about bringing us to the end of the webinar, guys. So I've got a few minutes left, and I hope that was helpful. You know, these perspectives from, you know, my world as a former program management consultant for about 10 years, and then now as a CEO of a software company, you know, living over here in the States, and the kind of new perspectives that I see working across the industry. So I've got my email up here. If anyone is interested in seeing some of the software that I've shown, discussing some of the topics, or even receiving some of the content that I talked about around, you know, winning work, I'd be happy to take an email, just shoot it to me, and we can connect. And if there are any questions, please throw them in the chat, and Michelle can help facilitate if that's okay, and I'll do my best to answer them right now. So if you've got any, Michelle, please
You know,
throw them at us.
well, I'm not seeing any questions right now, but I think you both provided a very in-depth overview, and we will be sending this information out tomorrow, so they will have your email address if any questions arise after this is over.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. Well, I think that just about wraps it up. So thanks a lot for all the attendees. It was a great turnout, and I'm looking forward to connecting with all of you, for those interested in reaching out. So thanks a lot, guys, and thanks to Michelle and CMAA for facilitating, and to Aaron for joining me on this webinar.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much,
Doug.
Doug and Aaron. We really appreciate your time and your effort with this topic.
No worries.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Michelle.
guys. Talk to you all
Bye-bye.
soon.